right now at 10.
Air quality improving, drought getting worse. I'll tell you when we finally get some rain.
We're about to learn the outcome of a federal investigation.
This is a very, very big deal.
What the Justice Department's decision could mean for Minneapolis. And new rules for a plant with a history of pollution.
It's been life-changing for so many people.
Why neighbors say they've waited years for this day. Plus,
It's been a little frustrating, I'd say.
from buyer battles to dwindling options, what a new report reveals about the Twin Cities housing market.
This is WCCO News, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Thanks for joining us. It is a lot easier to breathe in most of Minnesota and western Wisconsin tonight. Instead of blinking orange for polluted air, the next weather tower is glowing red tonight. That is because there is a warm up in sight. Chris Shaffer joins us from the Next Weather Center. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Erin. Yeah, it's nice to be not coughing every 15 or 20 minutes because the air yesterday was disgusting. It was unhealthy for all of us, and we're starting to see improvement. It's still not ideal, as you can see. We're in the moderate categories, and down along the Minnesota River, Mankato stretching back toward Montevideo. It's still unhealthy, but we will continue to see improvement, just like we are in parts of northern Minnesota as we continue to pump cleaner air over the region. Today was a rare cool day. It was only a high of 74. That's 5 degrees below average. Will likely add 15 to that temperature. That's why our next weather tower is shining red. We're in for a cool night tonight. Our temps are actually going to fall back to the 50s. So a chilly start tomorrow morning, a warm finish, and I'll let you know when that next weather tower will be shining green with actually rain on the way for a change.
We need that. All right, thanks, Chris. And our air quality, of course, will likely fluctuate all summer, but the numbers can get confusing. So the air quality index runs from 0 to 500. The higher the number, the worse the pollution. 50 and lower are considered good air quality, and anything higher than 300 is hazardous. Some Twin Cities suburbs reached the 250 mark yesterday. The Next Weather team will keep you up to date as our air quality changes this summer. You can check in with us on TV and online. Tomorrow, the nation's top law enforcement officer will make a major announcement in Minnesota. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland will share the findings of a federal investigation into the Minneapolis Police Department. That investigation began more than 2 years ago, the day after a former officer was convicted of murdering George Floyd. WCCO's David Schuman is here to explain what tomorrow's announcement could mean for the state's largest city. David.
Garland is expected to announce a consent decree, a legally binding order that would essentially have the Minneapolis Police Department answering to the Department of Justice. Community members here who were involved in the investigation see a consent decree as a significant step toward police accountability and a change of culture. The U.S. Attorney General will announce Friday the Department of Justice's findings on the Minneapolis Police Department. Investigators looked at use of force and discriminatory policing, as well as training and discipline.
It's sad that George Floyd had to die to make that happen, but I'm really, really pleased that this is at least a good outcome from his death, is that we now have an outside agency that's going to hold the city accountable.
Michelle Gross with Communities United Against Police Brutality helped gather thousands of testimonies for the DOJ to consider. The feds are now expected to put MPD under a legally binding consent decree.
You know, you've got to be able to own up to what this department has had a long history of, and you've got to be ready to say, that was the past and now we're going to do something different.
A consent decree would be a court order overseeing how MPD operates. It could affect training, policies, and more.
How are they to do actual policing? How are they to go through a neighborhood, stop vehicles, conduct searches? When can they use force? All of these things. And there are monitors who are appointed.
Gross says consent decrees have proven to be effective in other cities at reducing use of force incidents.
This is an ongoing process that'll last for some years. And that's okay because it takes a long time to change a culture. It's a lot of work, but it's work that's very worthwhile.
We reached out to Mayor Jacob Fry and MPD today, but didn't hear back. The police union declined to comment. MPD is also currently under a separate court-ordered agreement resulting from a state investigation last year.
All right, thanks, David. And when Attorney General Garland makes his announcement tomorrow, we will bring it to you live on WCCO and CBS News Minnesota. We're following a developing story across the border in Canada. At least 15 people are dead after a crash near Carberry, a small town west of Winnipeg. Investigators say a semi-truck and a bus collided. The bus was carrying mainly seniors. First responders brought another 10 people to the hospital. We'll update you when we learn more. A worker is seriously hurt after a reported explosion in Minneapolis. It happened at a triplex on Barton Avenue Southeast. Firefighters found a man in the front yard badly burned. Investigators think he was a contractor. They say the third floor was being renovated and that everyone else was able to get out safely. 3 men are in jail tonight for an armed abduction at the Mall of America. Security cameras capture some of it. Bloomington police say this video shows an armed man forcing his ex-girlfriend into the back of a car in the parking ramp on Monday. Investigators say he assaulted her inside the car while 2 other men were in the front seats. Police arrested all 3 the next day. 23-year-old Trayvon Johnson, the victim's ex-boyfriend, was already wanted for a shooting at an LRT station. The victim is recovering. And now to a major development in a years-long WCCO investigation. A manufacturing plant with a history of pollution violations will have stricter rules to follow. Water Gremlin has a new permit, and neighbors in White Bear Township say they're relieved. The State Pollution Control Agency brought community members together to deliver the news. WCCO's Jennifer Mayerle was there.
The day these neighbors who live near Water Gremlin in White Bear Township have waited for is here. A new stricter air permit for the plant who illegally released elevated and unsafe levels of a cancer-causing chemical into the surrounding community for over 15 years.
They have to adhere to much tighter operating procedures with better record keeping, better sampling, better monitoring, stack testing what's coming out.
The State Pollution Control Agency crediting community engagement with issuing the more restrictive permit. In doing so, MPCA denied the plant's request for a contested case hearing.
You stepped up and we're just super grateful.
People who have been at the table, some who feel their health has been impacted by the company's actions, emotional over the long-awaited outcome.
It means I can actually start looking forward and not worrying about what they're doing.
The company has to reapply for the permit every 5 years instead of the non-expiring permit it had. Every detail designed to ensure history doesn't repeat itself.
It's been life-changing for so many people. But from this day forward, it hopefully will improve the community's health and wellness and well-being and feeling of safety.
MPCA following through on a promise to better protect the community going forward.
This thing is comprehensive and it's tight, and there are requirements and they'll be held accountable.
A rare requirement of the permit is the company has to meet with the community every year.
We hope that Water Gremlin embraces the permit and embraces the standards that it creates, and that we can move forward and keep our community healthy.
Jennifer Mayerle, WCCO News.
Water Gremlin told us they'll comment on the new permit once they've had a chance to review it. You can learn more about WCCO's investigations into Water Gremlin on our website, WCCO.com. Clearer skies may be a sight for sore eyes, but rain clouds are what we really need right now. Chris is going to map out some next chances of showers and how high our temperatures will climb. Plus, trying to buy a house can be a painful process. What a new report reveals about the housing market in the Twin Cities. And a holiday recognized in Minnesota for the very first time. What's the history of Juneteenth? Good question.
You're watching WCCO News, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
The Twin Cities housing market has officially cooled off after several busy years. The Federal Reserve stabilized interest rates yesterday, which could bring in more buyers, but that doesn't mean the process will be easier or cheaper anytime soon. WCCO's Alan Henry explains.
How is the housing market doing? Well, it depends on who you ask.
This is the first day this house has gone on the market, and we have had 4 showings already today, and the open house started at 4 o'clock.
It's been a little frustrating, I'd say, because when I first started, there wasn't a lot available for me to even look at.
Shannon Law says she's been looking for a house for years, but so far has been outbid on the houses she can find.
Some houses have a lot of character, and then you go into the bathrooms and you're wondering, you know, if there's a disco in there.
According to Minneapolis area realtors, new home sales were up 34.6% last month, while existing home sales were down 23%. And home sales were also down in Minneapolis 13% and in St. Paul by nearly 30%.
We still have a shortage of homes. We still have way less homes on the market than what we consider a balanced housing market.
Which is why you shouldn't expect prices to go down anytime soon.
It's tough to have much of a drop in price if supply is tight. The old supply and demand just really applies here.
Despite that, the market is seeing signs of heating up as interest rate hikes have cooled. Experts say you shouldn't wait for a potentially better rate.
You marry the house, you date the rate. You don't necessarily stay in that same mortgage for 30 years, which a lot of people think. The national average for staying in the same mortgage loan is right around 7 years.
Alan Henry, WCCO News.
Minneapolis area realtors says the market still favors sellers right now with that low supply that we were talking about. So on average, sellers are accepting offers at 101% of the asking price, which sounds good, but last May that average was 104%. Well, some new numbers show that paychecks are keeping up with inflation, at least in Minnesota. The latest jobs report says wages have gone up 2% this year. Twin Cities inflation is at 1.8%. The state says we added 8,700 workers last month, and that is the biggest monthly gain in nearly 3 years. Well, on June 19th, millions of Americans will celebrate Juneteenth. The holiday marks the day that the last enslaved people in the Confederate United States learned they were free. It's already a federal holiday, but this year will be the first time Minnesota recognizes it as a state holiday, too. So what is the history of Juneteenth, and how are these recognitions impacting the holiday? Good question. Kirsten Mitchell explains the meaning of the day.
Historically speaking, what is Juneteenth?
Juneteenth is a celebration that we associate with the end of slavery in Texas.
That was in 1865 in Galveston, Texas, when the last enslaved people were freed, 2.5 years after President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation.
Happy Juneteenth.
For generations, Juneteenth has been celebrated with joy, music, food, and festivities.
What does Juneteenth mean to you?
Juneteenth means a lot of things, but to me, I think particularly post-2020, it means agency. It's not just about the day off. It's about what we do on that day to make our community better.
The racial reckoning after the murder of George Floyd pushed Juneteenth to become a federal holiday in 2021.
The president has now signed Juneteenth into law.
Every state has recognized Juneteenth as a day of observance, with more than half making it a permanent holiday.
It's a law of the land.
Minnesota joins the list this year.
So it's always nice, you know, not always necessary, but it is always nice to have sort of the institutions support what community has already been doing.
Teresa Moses started the Juneteenth celebration at the University of Minnesota, now in its second year.
We are trying to be as intentional about how we are celebrating Black joy, Black resistance, and Black rest.
She also grew up in Texas, the birthplace of the holiday.
It, I think, solidifies that we have to continuously celebrate it and hold it in really high esteem.
Dozens of Juneteenth events are planned across the state.
I think one of the misconceptions about Juneteenth is that only Black people can celebrate it. Yeah, I think that's the important and starting piece, is that you have to build trust. And one of the ways you do that is that you get out with community.
As more people learn the significance of the holiday, Dr. Uhura Williams hopes it remains focused on celebration, reflection, education, and the work that still needs to be done.
We should be looking around and asking the questions, you know, as we think about the hopes and aspirations of the free people in 1865. Where are we falling short today? This is the continuing effort to make the promise of freedom and equality real for all Americans, specifically in the Black community.
In St. Paul, Kirsten Mitchell, WCCO News.
And Juneteenth is the newest federal holiday since Martin Luther King Jr. Day was established in 1983. There is a growing list of Juneteenth events that are across the state. You will find it on our website, WCCO.com. Well, cleaner air brought more Minnesotans outdoors today. We saw people and pets out for a jog, a little run here on the old Cedar Avenue Bridge in Bloomington earlier tonight. Look at that, getting out on the bikes. And Chris, we should say, I mean, the air quality's clearing out here, but there are still parts of the state where it's unhealthy for most people.
It's just so much better than yesterday. Yesterday was like when you sit around a bonfire and no matter where you move, the smoke keeps coming at you all the time.
You could taste it.
You really could, yeah. So it's improved over that, and by tomorrow morning, all of the air alerts will be dropped, which is great news. Here's the problem, though. We're trending in the wrong direction with rainfall. It's been so dry around here. Look at this. This is really sad to see. June is one of our wetter months on average, but that's not happening so far this month. Look at all the zeros, the shutouts that have been posted on us with no rain. And even the 3 days where we did have it, pathetic, not so great, not so great. Yeah, we're over 2 inches on the dry side of average, and we have really one shot of rain over the weekend before we dry out again. So we need to gain a lot of ground. I just don't think we're going to make up that much ground, because when you have pathetic rainfalls like that, this is what happens. Look at the latest drought report that came out today. Almost 80% of the state is what's considered abnormally dry. You see that in the yellow shaded counties. What's also expanded, the moderate drought areas, that's up to about 20% of the state. You see that extends back into western Wisconsin as well. Where it's the roughest go is from Cambridge heading over towards St. Cloud. This is where we have a severe drought, only 2% of the state, but these areas are all going to continue to grow without much rain in the forecast. Certainly no rain out there right now. That front is pushed all the way down to extreme southwestern Minnesota. That's what allowed that cooler, drier air to spread out over us. And we're in for a cool night tonight. It's 64 degrees right now. Look at this, 50 in Duluth. 45 in Grand Marais. It's chilling up there in the Arrowhead. Tomorrow will be closer to average, about 15 degrees warmer than it was today. 80, still not humid, mid-80s likely down in southwestern Minnesota. We should all see some blue sky. We'll all have the sunshine, not humid, a pretty nice day. About that humidity now, those dew points are going to slowly creep up as we head towards Saturday. Borderline humid late Saturday night, pushing into Sunday. And that's when our best chance of rainfall will be here as well. So, Grandma's Marathon, if you're a runner, I'm not. I only run when I'm being chased. But I don't know what ideal running conditions are. But this looks pretty good. First of all, the air quality will be A-OK. Temperatures in the 50s, not humid. Good luck, runners. And good for you, people that are volunteering or just going there to support. It is a very cool marathon. 83 on Saturday later in the afternoon, and you'll see these chances of showers and thunderstorms. Western Minnesota, you have the best chance of getting wet during the day Saturday. We'll walk you through it. This is about 10:45 in the morning. Some spotty showers. There could be a few thunderstorms. Not expecting anything severe. And look how the rain basically stays west till almost Saturday evening here in the Twin Cities. Some showers could pass while we sleep, and that line is kind of parked over eastern Minnesota heading for western Wisconsin on Father's Day. So you might want to have an indoor plan as well if you want to stay dry. But remember, we need this rain. It is so dry around here. So 80 tomorrow, 83 Saturday, a little cooler with a better chance of showers and some scattered thunderstorms on Sunday. We dry out again next week, and we bake. We could add some 90s. We've done that 5 times already this year. We averaged 13 trips into the 90s, and we could notch a few more by this time next week.
Yeah, looking steamy. All right. Thanks, Chris. Yeah. What's going on this side of the
and the
desk
Twins
over
in the
here?
midst of a homestand, it looks like they're going to wear your sunscreen is what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Let me tell you something. I'm a little confused right now, Erin. You know why? Because I've been led to believe I thought the Detroit Tigers were not playing very well and weren't very good. They look pretty healthy at Target Field tonight. Who is celebrating a spot in a championship game? They get ready to change their status in boys volleyball. And where is Crunch going now? All ahead in sports.
And remember, you can get your WCCO wherever you want by streaming CBS News Minnesota through the CBS News app or on Pluto TV.
Hurry in for this.
So I thought the Twins were supposed to have a chance at this one, Maxie.
Yeah, and they probably will because it's the first of 4 games. Okay. This baseball thing's kind of funny because you can never, ever predict it. And based on what we were seeing, I mean, the way they were trending, this shouldn't have happened tonight. But it did, and that's why we like baseball, right? Yeah, so here we go. Fresh off an impressive 2-game sweep over Milwaukee, the struggling Detroit Tigers came to town and did not struggle. It started fine. Donovan Solano beat Matthew Boyd Batt, a 3-run home run and a comfy 3-run cushion. But Sonny Gray faltered after 4, and the Tigers chipped away. Layering some quality at bats. This one by Javier Baez turned into a 2-run triple. All of a sudden, it was tied. Then the Tigers led. Then the Tigers put it away. Spencer Torkelson, a 2-run double. Not a good night for the Twins. The Tigers roar back. The scoreboard tells the story. 8-4 Detroit to open the 4-game set. The state lacrosse tournament is down to state championship Saturday. Aside from the forest fire haze, the temperatures have been good. Lakeville North got a goal from Leo Pescatello, part of the three-brother combo against Shakopee. Nathan Long won it in overtime. 9-8 Lakeville North over Shakopee. Next up, Prior Lake for all the marbles. Girls semifinals, Edina at Stillwater. Edina trails, then here come the Hornets. Mary Vellner from in front of the net. They went on a roll to the title game, winning 10-7 over the Ponies, and will take on Benilde St. Margaret's Saturday for the championship. Soon, boys volleyball will be a Minnesota State High School League sanctioned sport. This week at its state tournament, it's still club status. Norman Seawright paid a visit.
It's gonna get bigger and bigger every year, and I'm so excited to see where it ends up.
That's the common feeling at the boys state volleyball tournament, with the sport now sanctioned by the Minnesota State High School League.
I feel really good because like all the school be waiting for it.
It's an easy sport to get into. Interest, support, and participation are rising.
It's growing really quickly, and it's going to provide a lot more, I think, college opportunities for kids that may not financially be able to do it as well. I think that's a huge piece.
Next year is the last time this tournament will be run independently. Starting in the 2024 school year, this will be a Minnesota State High School League tournament. And they're just thinking about the opportunities for growth and development, not just for the sport, but for the players as well.
We're getting better and better. You know, I'm only involved in the high school side, so I see that, but I know the club team's starting to travel.
I see it as a great opportunity for anyone that's looking to get involved in athletics.
It is bittersweet for the seniors.
I'm coming back to watch my team play to just be like, man, I wish I had that opportunity.
But the patience is worth it. In Shakopee, Norman Seawright, WCCO Sports.
When we come back, the Wolves camp gets a special visitor. We will hear from him next. Some indoor activities while we wait for the smoke to clear include the Timberwolves and Lynx in their annual basketball camp. Out at Egan today, the kids gathered and got some pointers from the feature piece, the Wolves' Jaden McDaniels. He teamed with Crunch, who else, to entertain and to reflect on his memories of camps like this when he was growing up.
It's exciting just to be able to give back and then come and do what older NBA players did for me, and just to see the joy in their faces is amazing.
The camp that he went to was Jamal Crawford's camp, who interestingly, or ironically, ended up being a Minnesota Timberwolves player. So there you go. Tomorrow, state championship baseball all day at CHS Field. We'll have the latest from that and an interesting home team feature.
A very memorable camp experience. You don't forget that.
You don't forget that. Nope.
Thanks, Maxie. We'll be right back.
Only at Hy-Vee.
Couple raindrops for Father's Day weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the timing of it, but we do need the rain. We've been talking about the drought conditions that are getting worse. The good news about tomorrow, the air will be so much cleaner. It will also be notably warmer, with a high up around average, around 80, and scattered showers this weekend with 90s next week.
Nice. Make some indoor, some outdoor plans. Have a backup.
Yes.
With Dad. Thanks, Chris. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert is next. You can keep watching local stories online on our stream, CBS News Minnesota. And as we say goodnight, here's a look at the Minneapolis skyline.
You can see the buildings.
Yep.